Have you ever stood in front of someone who disrespected you and felt your blood heat while your mind begged you to stay calm? That split second between reaction and restraint decides who truly holds the power. Disrespect is never just about them, it's a test of you. Stay with me, and you'll learn how to win that battle in complete silence. As we step into the first chapter, imagine this. Someone's voice slices through a quiet room. Their words are sharp, designed to sting, to make you lose your center. The air thickens, every muscle in your body tenses, ready to strike back. But in that very moment, between their provocation and your response, there exists a sacred pause. The Stoics called this the space of mastery. It's the narrow doorway between reaction and reason. Now, picture yourself standing there, silent. Their insult echoes in the air, waiting for your anger to answer. But it doesn't come. You breathe once, slow and deliberate. You look at them, not with fire, but with clarity. And suddenly, something shifts. The power they thought they had over you evaporates, because what they expected was your rage. What they got was your calm. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." That's not just a quote to memorize. It's a battlefield strategy. When someone tries to draw you into their chaos, they're not fighting you, they're fighting your composure. They want to see you unravel, because in that unraveling, they win. Every insult is bait, every provocation a test. And those who lack discipline fall for it every time. Let me tell you something I learned long ago. I was in a crowded meeting once, surrounded by voices fighting for dominance. Someone made a cutting remark, one meant to humiliate me in front of everyone. My instinct was immediate, to strike back, to restore my dignity with sharper words. But instead, I did nothing. I sat there. I let the silence hang, like a drawn bow. And then I smiled, not with arrogance, but with understanding. The room shifted. Eyes turned. Not toward the one who mocked me, but toward the one who refused to be shaken. Later, people told me that moment changed how they saw me. Not because I defended myself, but because I didn't need to. That's the paradox of stillness. It shouts louder than anger ever could. Seneca warned that the greatest remedy for anger is delay. That delay isn't weakness, it's command. When you pause, you are not avoiding the fight. You are choosing the battleground. And that battleground is your mind. The moment you react, you surrender control. The moment you breathe, you reclaim it. Disrespect thrives on reaction. It feeds on chaos. But when you remain still, you become a mirror, showing the other person their own disorder. They lash out, expecting a storm, but all they meet is still water. And still water reflects truth. That's why silence is so uncomfortable. It exposes what words try to hide. Think of a lion in the savannah. It doesn't roar at every provocation. It doesn't waste energy on every threat. It moves only when it must, and when it does, it's decisive. The Stoic way is the same. It's not about being passive, it's about mastering the exact moment when action is necessary. Calmness is not the absence of emotion, it's the command of it. I once asked a mentor how he managed to stay composed while others around him burned with frustration. He said, "Because I choose the tempo. If I let others decide when I react, they become my master." That line never left me. Every time someone disrespects you, they're trying to become your conductor, raising their hands, waiting for you to play their tune. But the Stoic stands still. He listens, he smiles, he plays nothing. Control is magnetic. When you hold your ground with calm precision, people sense it. They can't quite explain why, but they respect it. It's because composure signals something rare in a chaotic world: inner order. And in a society addicted to outrage, the man who doesn't flinch becomes an enigma. There's a certain beauty in this kind of restraint. It's not about silencing your voice forever. It's about using it wisely. The Stoics didn't preach quietness for its own sake. They preached control. A sword drawn in haste dulls itself. A mind drawn in haste destroys itself. The pause sharpens both. So, the next time disrespect stands before you, don't rush to answer it. Let it echo. Let it lose its own energy. Breathe. Observe. Watch how the person who insulted you begins to shrink beneath the weight of their own impulsiveness. That's when you'll realize your calm is not silence, it's dominance in its purest form. Marcus Aurelius faced daily insult, betrayal, and mockery from men of power. Yet he wrote, "Be like the rock against which the waves break. It stands firm, and the raging of the sea falls still around it." That's the image to keep, an immovable mind amid the noise of the world. The insult may hit, but it cannot penetrate. The storm may rage, but it cannot move the rock. When you master that stillness, you master yourself. And when you master the moment, no one can own your peace. Because power doesn't belong to those who shout the loudest. It belongs to those who remain unmoved. Remember this. Every time you hold your tongue, every time you breathe before speaking, every time you let silence answer for you, you're not losing the fight. You're winning it at a higher level. The weak react, the strong reflect. And that reflection is what changes everything. This is the first step to commanding respect, not through dominance, but through stillness. From here, we'll move deeper into the next rule: how to face chaos without becoming part of it. Moving into the second chapter, imagine walking into a storm, not of wind or rain, but of people's words. A place where voices clash, where arrogance hides behind laughter, where small minds test your limits just to see if they can pull you down into their noise. You felt it before, haven't you? The heat rising under your skin, the pulse quickening in your throat, the desperate need to say something, anything, to defend your dignity. But here's the truth. The moment you compete with chaos, you lose the very thing that makes you powerful, your composure. There's a kind of person who thrives on disorder. They don't seek understanding, they seek reaction. They poke, they twist, they provoke, not because they're strong, but because they can't stand the silence of their own insignificance. They feed on energy, any energy, even anger. They're not trying to win an argument. They're trying to own your mood. And once they own your mood, they own your mind. Marcus Aurelius warned us centuries ago, the best revenge is not to be like your enemy. He didn't mean it as poetry, he meant it as survival. The moment you lower yourself to the level of those who insult you, you've handed them victory. I remember a man I used to work with, loud, dismissive, always talking over others. His strength wasn't in his words, it was in how easily he could pull people off balance. One day, during a heated discussion, he laughed at me in front of others. I could feel my blood boil. The old version of me wanted to crush him with reason, to show I was right. But instead, I leaned back, crossed my hands, and said nothing. He laughed again, louder this time, trying to provoke me further. But silence is strange. It echoes differently in a room full of noise. Within seconds, his laughter turned awkward. His dominance evaporated into confusion. I didn't have to fight him. I let him fight himself. Epictetus once said, "When someone provokes you, remember, it is not he who reviles you that insults you, but your opinion that he does." Every insult is a reflection, not of truth, but of the speaker's own unrest. When someone tries to humiliate you, they're revealing more about themselves than they ever could about you. That's why you must learn the art of non-participation. It's not weakness, it's strategy. The wise man doesn't enter every battle. He chooses the field, the timing, and the silence that turns his restraint into armor. Think of chaos as fire. Touch it, and you burn. Observe it, and you learn. Most people see fire and panic. They rush to extinguish it, but in doing so, they fan the flames. The Stoic doesn't rush. He steps back. He studies where the wind blows. He knows some fires die faster when starved of air. The same is true for conflict. When you refuse to react, the flame that was meant to consume you dies in their own frustration. You didn't win by fighting harder. You won by not needing to fight at all. It takes courage to walk away, but courage isn't loud. It's quiet. It's the strength to let someone think they've won, while you know deep down you've kept something far greater, your peace. Seneca reminded us that anger, if not restrained, is more hurtful to us than the injury that provokes it. When someone disrespects you, their intention is not always to defeat you. It's to drag you into a place where you destroy yourself. They want your calm turned into chaos, your patience into rage, and when you explode, they'll call you the problem. So, do not compete with chaos. Outsmart it. When they shout, speak softly. When they accuse, stay factual. When they twist your words, don't untangle them. Let the knots tighten around their own dishonesty. There's no need to win every exchange. You only need to win yourself. The Stoic mind sees the game for what it is, a test of control, not of dominance. Once, a young man asked a philosopher, "How can I earn respect from those who look down on me?" The philosopher smiled and replied, "By not looking down on yourself." That's the essence of this rule. You cannot outshout ignorance. You can only outlast it. The world is full of people trying to prove they're right, but very few trying to prove they're calm. And calmness, when mastered, is magnetic. People are drawn to it. Even your enemies will feel its weight. Remember, when you face disrespect, your silence is not surrender, it's strategy. The Stoics saw insults as opportunities for discipline, not wounds to the ego. Each time you resist reacting, you grow stronger. Each time you stay centered, you become freer. Freedom is not the absence of conflict, it's the ability to remain untouched by it. And so, the next time someone tries to drag you into their storm, remember, you don't have to step in. Let them rage and burn themselves out. You remain grounded, untouched. Watch, breathe, and let their chaos collapse under its own weight. That is how you outsmart disrespect, not by fighting louder, but by standing quieter. The man who doesn't compete with chaos is the man chaos can never control, and from that stillness, true authority begins to grow. Now, as we move forward, we'll step into the next lesson, how to command respect not by force, but through presence, and how your calm becomes the language of power that needs no defense. Advancing to the third chapter, imagine walking into a room where everyone is speaking but no one is truly being heard. Voices overlap, egos collide, and somewhere between the noise and the need to prove themselves, respect disappears. In that room, the loudest person believes they hold the power, but they don't. Real power rarely raises its voice. It doesn't need to. It's carried in how you enter, how you look, how you listen, how you hold yourself when others forget how to hold their composure. This is where respect begins, not with words, but with presence. Presence is silent gravity. It's what makes people lower their tone when you speak, not because you demand it, but because your energy commands it. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Waste no more time arguing what a good man should be. Be one." You don't tell people to respect you, you show them why they should. Every gesture, every pause, every decision either elevates your dignity or hands it away. I remember once being in a conversation where someone kept interrupting me. Every time I began a sentence, he'd cut in, louder, more aggressive, trying to prove a point that wasn't even being challenged. The old me would have matched his tone, maybe even spoken over him, just to be heard. But that day, I didn't. I let him speak. I sat back, eyes steady, not defensive, not impatient, just composed. When he finished, the room was quiet. I spoke softly, clearly, and finished what I was saying. There was no applause, no visible victory, but the air had changed. The balance of respect had shifted, not because I fought for it, but because I didn't. Epictetus said, "It is impossible for a man to learn what he thinks he already knows." The loud man, the one who constantly interrupts, is rarely confident. He's insecure. He fears silence because silence forces him to hear himself. That's why composure is more powerful than confrontation. When you stay centered while others lose control, they begin to feel the imbalance. They sense it, they question it, and in that questioning, they start to respect it. Let's be clear, this kind of calm is not about superiority. It's not about pretending to be above others. It's about remembering who you are even when others forget themselves. When you speak, do it from conviction, not emotion. When you stand, do it with intention, not performance. You don't need to prove your worth. You just need to embody it. People may challenge your ideas, but they can't argue with your composure. There's a story of a Roman general who, after a great victory, was mocked by a younger soldier during a celebration. The soldier, drunk with envy, insulted him in front of the crowd. Everyone waited for the general to react, to punish the disrespect. But he didn't. He looked at the man and said, "If you can bear the burden of being foolish, I can bear the burden of hearing it." The room went silent. That's what authority looks like. It doesn't fight noise with noise. It conquers it with poise. In our modern world, people think confidence means speaking louder, being seen, being heard, being followed. But Stoic confidence is quieter. It's like a mountain. It doesn't announce itself. It simply exists, immovable. You can scream at a mountain all day. It won't echo your anger back. That's what presence feels like when it's rooted in self-mastery. You don't need to dominate a room. You just need to belong to yourself in it. When you walk into a place, walk as if your peace cost you years to build, because it did. Don't trade it for validation. Don't hand it away to impress those who can't even manage their own emotions. Commanding respect isn't about being admired. It's about being unshakable. People might forget what you said, but they'll never forget how they felt in your presence. If your calmness can quiet a room, your discipline can change it. Seneca once warned, "He who is everywhere is nowhere." The same applies to speech. He who speaks constantly speaks meaninglessly. Choose your words as a swordsman chooses when to strike, with precision, not impulse. A single sentence delivered with clarity can do what hours of argument never will. Speak with rhythm. Let silence punctuate your strength. The space between your words is where your authority breathes. It takes years to learn that true respect is not earned through reaction, but through restraint. Every unnecessary word is a drop of power wasted. Every loud defense is proof you've lost the quiet conviction within. People respect consistency. They respect the one who doesn't bend with every opinion, who doesn't chase every conflict, who doesn't need to announce their strength because it radiates from their control. So, when someone tries to talk over you, let them. When they mock you, smile. When they try to shake your ground, remember, it's their ground that's crumbling, not yours. Your calm will outlive their chaos. And when the dust settles, the one who stayed calm will still be standing unshaken. Commanding respect has nothing to do with titles, wealth, or reputation. It begins in the unseen, the way you breathe when provoked, the way you think before responding, the way you hold your posture when eyes are on you. Respect is built in these invisible moments. The Stoics knew this well. Character is revealed when no one is watching, but it is tested when everyone is. So the next time you enter a room, remember, you don't need to dominate it. You only need to anchor it. Speak less, mean more, move slower, strike deeper. Let your presence do the work that words can't. Because the man who can command respect without demanding it holds a kind of power the world cannot imitate. And from that quiet strength, we now move forward to the next truth of Stoic mastery: how to guard your energy like a fortress and ensure that no one's chaos can ever drain your peace again. From here, we step into the fourth chapter, where silence meets discipline, the place where your peace becomes your greatest currency. Picture this. You walk into a day already filled with tension. Someone's sharp tone slices through the air. Another person's arrogance leaks into the room like smoke. And suddenly, you feel your patience being tested from every side. In moments like these, most people spill their energy everywhere. They react, explain, defend, argue. They burn their reserves of strength on people who were never worth the cost. But the Stoic doesn't play that game. He guards his energy like a fortress. He knows that not every battle deserves an army, and not every attack deserves an answer. Your energy is your life's breath. Every reaction you give is a piece of yourself handed away. Every time you let someone drag you into their anger, you become part of their design. Seneca said, "He who suffers before it is necessary suffers more than necessary." Think about that. Most of what drains us isn't what happens, it's how we respond to what happens. You cannot control the storm, but you can decide whether to walk into it. Most people don't understand this. They think silence means surrender. They think walking away means weakness. But walking away isn't weakness, it's wisdom. I once knew a man who was impossible to please. He found fault in everyone, in everything. If you succeeded, he'd say it wasn't enough. If you failed, he'd say he expected it. One afternoon he criticized me in front of others, twisting my work into mockery. The younger version of me would have defended myself, would have fought to be understood. But I didn't. I looked at him once, said nothing, and left. The silence burned hotter than any reply. Later that week, he came to me, calmer, his tone different. I didn't need to win the argument. I needed to win my peace. That was the day I learned. Some battles end not when you fight, but when you stop feeding them. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Choose not to be harmed, and you won't feel harmed. Don't feel harmed, and you haven't been." This is the art of guarding your energy. It begins with perception. You cannot drain a river if it stops flowing toward you. You cannot be provoked if you refuse to grant someone access to your emotions. Energy, like water, follows focus. If you focus on offense, you overflow with anger. If you focus on restraint, you deepen into stillness. Every provocation is an invitation. The question is, will you attend? There is a quiet strength in saving your energy for what matters. The Stoics lived by the idea that peace is not found by escaping life, but by ordering it. You cannot keep giving emotional responses to people who haven't earned your understanding. Some speak only to see you react. Some provoke only to feel alive through your chaos. You owe them nothing. Silence is not punishment, it's preservation. It's how you keep your inner fortress from being breached by those who have no business inside. I remember a time I was caught in the middle of a workplace feud. Two colleagues wanted me to take sides, both convinced of their righteousness. They kept coming to me, venting, pulling, trying to make me part of their war. I listened once, calmly. Then I said, "You both care more about being right than being at peace." They laughed at first, but my distance unsettled them. Weeks later, the argument consumed them, their focus shattered, their work collapsed. I had stepped away early and kept my clarity. That's what guarding your energy looks like. You stop being everyone's audience. You stop dancing to chaos. Epictetus reminded his students, if you want to improve, be content to be thought foolish and stupid. Let them think you're cold. Let them call you distant. Let them misunderstand your silence. People addicted to noise will always misjudge those who move quietly. But while they waste their energy explaining, defending, and reacting, you'll be building power in the background. The less you react, the stronger you become. Because energy conserved is power multiplied. When you guard your energy, you begin to see how much of life's suffering is voluntary. The Stoic path isn't about withdrawal from the world, it's about engaging without depletion. You still love, you still help, you still act, but from fullness, not emptiness. You stop giving the same emotional currency to every situation. Some moments deserve a full heart, others deserve a calm silence. Wisdom is knowing the difference. There's a story of an old Roman senator who was constantly insulted by a younger rival. Every time they met in public, the younger man would taunt him, trying to provoke an outburst. The senator never responded. When asked why, he said, "I will not spend my peace on a man who has lost his own." That's the essence of Stoic restraint, choosing not to match another's disorder because you value your peace too much to trade it away. Guarding your energy means understanding what truly belongs to you, your thoughts, your time, your composure. Those are sacred. You can't control what people say, but you can control what you let echo inside you. And that choice, that boundary, is where freedom begins. The more selective you are with your attention, the more powerful your presence becomes. People begin to notice that you're not easily moved. They sense your discipline, and quietly, they respect it. So the next time someone tries to provoke you, pause. Ask yourself, is this worth my energy? Most of the time it's not. Save it for what builds you. Save it for the work, the purpose, the relationships that deserve it. Because life is short, and your energy is not infinite. Don't waste it proving points to those who are already lost in their own noise. Guard your peace like a fortress wall against the wind. Shield it carefully, and it will outlast every storm. And as we move onward, we'll explore a truth even deeper. How the foundation of every external respect begins with one thing, the unshakable practice of self-respect. At this stage, the lesson turns inward, toward the one truth that defines every Stoic life. No one will respect you until you respect yourself. Picture this clearly. You stand in front of a mirror, not the kind that reflects your face, but the one that reveals your choices. Every compromise, every moment you stayed silent when your boundaries were crossed, every time you tolerated less than you deserved, it's all there. That's where the erosion begins, not when others mistreat you, but when you quietly agree to it. The world learns how to treat you by watching how you treat yourself. You cannot demand respect while living in contradiction. You cannot expect dignity from others if you refuse to give it to yourself. Seneca wrote, "A man cannot be respected unless he first respects himself." It sounds simple, but it's the hardest war to win, the one inside. Because self-respect isn't built through words or pride. It's built through decisions, especially the ones that cost you comfort. I remember someone once told me, "You're too quiet. You should speak up more so people notice you." I almost believed it, but over time I realized it's not the noise that earns attention, it's the consistency. I didn't need to speak more, I needed to stand stronger. The Stoics understood this deeply. The man who chases approval loses himself in the process. The man who chooses principle, even when unseen, builds an unshakable foundation. Every time you say no to what disrespects you, you reinforce your worth. Every time you stay silent when silence serves your peace, you honor yourself more than any applause ever could. Epictetus taught, "If you wish to be good, first believe that you are." That's where it begins, with belief, followed by action. When you start valuing your time, others will stop wasting it. When you start setting boundaries, people will stop crossing them, but you must mean it. Respect doesn't come from demands, it comes from alignment. You cannot teach others to value you while you keep betraying yourself. Discipline, not drama, defines dignity. There was a man I once worked with who never raised his voice, yet no one ever disrespected him. He arrived early, spoke little, and did what he said he would. His strength wasn't loud, it was consistent. People noticed because he didn't chase validation. He commanded it through integrity. Watching him was a revelation. Respect is not a request, it's a reflection. When your words and actions match, you radiate a quiet authority no one can take from you. True self-respect is not arrogance. It's not about thinking you're better than others. It's about knowing you are responsible for the way you allow others to shape your life. The Stoic path isn't about isolation. It's about boundaries. You give freely, but not foolishly. You forgive, but you do not invite harm twice. You help others, but never at the expense of your peace. Because if you abandon yourself to please others, you lose both, them and you. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself daily, "It is not that the world is unjust, but that we teach it how to treat us." And he was right. Every time you tolerate what hurts your soul, you teach people that your boundaries are negotiable. But the moment you choose differently, the world begins to shift. Those who only valued your weakness will fade. Those who see your strength will remain. Respect filters, not flatters. So, ask yourself, when was the last time you acted in defense of your own worth? When was the last time you walked away, not because you didn't care, but because you finally did? That's what it means to command respect, to live so aligned with your values that admiration becomes irrelevant, to be at peace with your own reflection. Remember this, you set the standard. What you allow continues. What you refuse ends. Self-respect is not the reward, it's the requirement. The one who values himself does not chase worth in others' eyes. He carries it within him, quietly, unshakably, and from that inner foundation we'll move to the final chapter, the art of turning every act of disrespect into mastery, where calmness becomes your greatest victory. Now imagine this, the same insult that once made your blood boil no longer touches you. Their words fall flat, powerless. The fire that used to burn inside you has turned into light, clear and steady. This is mastery. Not when disrespect disappears, but when it can no longer move you. Every insult is a test. Every moment of disrespect is an invitation to prove who you've become. The Stoics never sought to avoid hardship, they used it as training. Seneca wrote, "Fire tests gold, adversity tests the brave." Each time someone tries to provoke you, you have two choices: to react and fall, or to pause and rise. The moment you stay calm, you win a battle they never even see. I remember once being mocked in front of others. The words were meant to sting, to make me defend myself. But I didn't. I looked at him and said, "You seem troubled. I hope you find peace." He fell silent. Not because I overpowered him, but because I refused to play his game. The Stoics understood this well. When you stay calm, you hold up a mirror. The other person is forced to see their own weakness reflected back. Marcus Aurelius said, "The best revenge is to be unlike your enemy. When someone disrespects you, they're begging for your reaction. The moment you give it, they own you. But when you remain still, they lose control." Calmness is not surrender, it's command. It's the mark of someone who knows where his power truly lies. People who provoke want to pull you into their chaos. Don't go. Let their noise collapse without your energy. The Stoic wins by standing still while the world shakes. He turns every insult into discipline, every challenge into proof of control. True strength is quiet. It doesn't announce itself, it's felt. So when disrespect comes, don't meet it with anger. Meet it with composure. Let them see that your peace is beyond their reach. That's the kind of power no one can take. Because in the end, victory isn't about silencing others. It's about mastering yourself. And the one who stays calm when others lose control wins silently, completely, forever. In the end, it all comes back to this simple truth. Power is never found in noise, but in control. Every time you choose calm over reaction, you rise above what tried to pull you down. You no longer chase validation or revenge. You understand that the greatest victory is mastery over yourself. Disrespect will still exist. People will still test your limits. But the difference now is that you have learned how to win without fighting. The Stoics taught that no one can truly harm you unless you give them permission. And when you stand rooted in silence, you give no one that permission. You hold your peace like a shield, your restraint like a blade. The storms around you may roar, but within you there is stillness. That stillness is not weakness. It is command. It is freedom. So if this message spoke to something in you, take a moment to reflect. Subscribe if you want to keep walking this path of quiet strength, where control becomes confidence and wisdom becomes your armor. And in the comments, share your thought in just 2 words. Stay calm. Remember, you do not need to prove your worth to anyone. Every time you pause before reacting, every time you protect your energy, every time you respond with grace instead of anger, you are already winning. Keep mastering yourself, one choice at a time. Your calm will outlast every insult, every test, every storm. Stay grounded, stay unshakable, and meet me in the next reflection, where we will go even deeper into the art of silent power.